Schaum Red Book, Piano Lesson 5, starting on page 29 with number 20, Tune of the Tuna Fish. Just while I remember, I wanted to pick up on something from last lesson. When we were discussing the scales, I talked about jumping from note to note and how big the jump was. I really should have talked about steps, how big the step was, just to be consistent. So it's a bigger step from C to D than it is from C to C sharp. So C to C sharp is the half step, which in Britain we call a semitone. By contrast, normally when I talk about a jump, I mean going up 2 letters. So for example, C to E, or E to G, or E flat to G, they're jumps. And then I might say from C to G is just a bigger jump or a double jump or something like that. Okay, right, so back to Tune of the Tuna Fish. We're in an F major hand position. You need to remember your B flats. And then we've got parts of the piece where one hand is repeating a note, the other hand is changing note. So first bar, right hand is about to repeat, left hand is going to join. So we need to take the right hand off early to make it easier to join up the left. So slight gap, slight gap, slight gap. That helps you to join up the left hand, and then once you're doing that you can speed it up and reduce the gap. I've discussed that quite a lot in previous lessons, but it's important and I hope you're getting the hang of it by now. Okay, number 21. Which is which? Same hand position as the previous piece, but we're in 3 time. So, a couple of points here. We start on the last beat of a bar. So to make sure we get into the right sort of pattern, put a slight accent on the first beat of the main bar. So, accent, accent, accent. And you have to pay particular attention in the left hand, because the left hand has a single note to start the bar, but then 2 notes at the same time on the next beat. But the next beat would normally be unaccented, so you need to go out of your way to make sure you accent the single note and less on the double note. Excuse me, I don't know why I'm sneezing today. So, where was I? The accents are important to keep the structure. Also, try to do the rests properly. So, towards the end of the first line, right hand plays, left hand comes off. And then actually in that last bar of the line, there's an overlap between right and left. Try and do that properly. So right hand stays on, left hand comes on, right hand changes note, but left hand stays on. I'm not even sure if I did that properly when I played it through before, but you know, it's good to try and get every element right. So that's how you do that bit. Okay, number 22, Brahms Lullaby. Now this is a difficult one, possibly the hardest one so far, because the right hand changes quite a lot. For example, it starts with a stretch as you go into the first main bar. When I say stretch, normally fingers 1 and 2 would be on adjacent notes, but you're stretching finger 2 out to the G. So there's stretches during the piece. There's also a squeeze, a couple of squeezes. For example, towards the end of the second line, we go 5, 3, 2. So you have to squeeze your fingers together in order to play the 3. And then again in the third line, we go squeeze the fingers together to go 1, 5 on adjacent notes. Added to that, you've got to do the accents as in the last piece to start the bar, and you've got to get the rests correct. There's lots going on in this piece, so it's a good idea to practice it slowly with attention to detail, and then you can gradually speed it up. But I would try to play both hands together as quickly as soon as possible into your practice, because however well you play one hand on its own, you're just not getting the practice of putting the hands together, which is the important thing here. And you need to be doing it without looking at your hands too much. Okay, enough talk, I'll play it through now. So at this point you're being encouraged to play with expression, to do the softs and the louds, the crescendo getting louder, diminuendo getting softer. There's writ at the end as you go slower. So these are suggestions, but you should approach the piece expressively anyway. Look at the words, think about the melody, and try just naturally to see if it comes to you, to make it as if you're singing the notes. You know, imagine singing them as you shape your piano melody. And then with the rests, to get them precise, you need to make sure that one hand comes off as the other hand plays. So for example, at the start of the piece, left off, right on simultaneously. It's a bit like a pivot, seesaw. Very good habit to get into. Number 23, riding on a mule. This is another one you want to give shape to, because otherwise it can get a bit monotonous. So you want to get good speed, give it some shape. Here we go. This is yet another piece where you need to join one hand while the other hand repeats. So it's just going to keep happening now. You've got to have mastered this technique before moving on, really. So for example, the first bar, left hand's about to repeat, right hand joins. Take left hand off early. So just one insight into this is that actually the hand that repeats is having to move quicker because the fingers are going to come all the way off and back on again in the time it takes the other hand, so the right hand, to play, to push down one note. So we're pushing down the B, the left hand has got to come off its chord and all the way back down again. So you've got to make a sort of conscious effort to do what you need to do with the repeating hand in time. Off and on. Off and on. And then in the next bar, again it's got to come off early. Left hand off and on. Okay, we'll move on to number 24, cycles. D major hand position. And yet again, make sure you join up the hand with the melody when the other hand has repeated notes or chords. End of the lesson.